Just last week, a hiker died in the White Mountains. This was not the first person to die in the White Mountains, and it most likely will not be the last. However, he will be horribly missed by his friends, family, and the hiking community. In this video, I'm going to talk about the second leading cause of death for hikers, hypothermia, how to prepare for hiking and the signs of hypothermia, as well as talking about how we can help as hikers, other hikers. But first, let me tell you a little bit about the death that happened most recently. I would like to give a shout out to all the volunteers, all the rescue teams, and everybody who was involved in trying to save or find Mr. Roma while he was out hiking. Christopher Roma was an experienced hiker, backpacker. He did the Triple Crown. He actually did the PCT twice. He also did many of the mountains around here, the 48 4,000 footers. He knocked that off his list. He also, his mission was all about safety and mountain safety. So it is in our best interest as hikers who, feel for this loss to basically try to help other hikers so it doesn't happen again. And while Christopher Roma was a very experienced hiker, it got me thinking about myself, who I have gone up in the mountains unprepared, unknowingly unprepared, but unprepared just the same. And it says if a man like him can lose his life while out in the mountains, anybody can. He was very experienced. Again, nobody is exempt from the dangers of the mountain. So if you'd like to learn more about Christopher Roma and the legacy that he leaves behind, there are many other YouTube channels. I'm going to focus on how I can serve my community or my subscribers right now and give as much information as I can about how to protect ourselves. Like I said, hypothermia or exposure is the second leading cause of death for hikers or backpackers, basically people going out into the wilderness. And every year people head to the mountains, basically to reconnect with the wild, enjoy the mountains, but many are often unprepared, whether it's not having enough knowledge, the gear or the experience, or even the understanding of the weather and how weather can change in the mountains. And especially up here in New Hampshire, weather can change extremely quickly, and we find that out every year. So what is hypothermia? According to the U.S. Forest Service, hypothermia or exposure is the progressive mental and physical collapse that accompanies the cooling of the inner core of the human body. It's caused by exposure to the cold, is aggravated by wet, wind, and exhaustion. The interesting thing that happens is hypothermia happens more often in the summer, and it seems because people are less prepared for the change in weather. They might go up in a shorts and t-shirt and not have, a raincoat, and the rain can come in and they can get awful chilled awful quick, especially when you leave your car at 70 degrees and the top of the mountain is 40, 45 degrees, and people are sometimes taken by surprise, honestly. And I keep going back to the White Mountains. The White Mountains are inherently dangerous because we have very high winds, we have very quick changes in weather, and the beauty of the sky on a summer day or a winter day can be erased very quickly and turn into whipping winds, whether it's rain or snow. and it happens quickly. I've been involved in many hikes where the weather does change. Fortunately, it didn't change all that great of a deal for us, and we were able to safely come out of the mountains. So what are the signs of hypothermia? Let me tell you a little story about what happened last winter. It was early winter. We went up hiking up into the White Mountains to Carter Notch, and we camped out. I thought that everything was going well. I actually and accidentally went to bed with wet socks on my feet, and quickly I started to shiver, and I got really cold. And fortunately for me, I had a lot of other clothing that I changed into, was able to dry up and start to heat up. And I warmed up enough and then was able to make it through the night. But the signs of hypothermia, they include uncontrollable shivering, poor coordination and loss of manual dexterity. It just gets harder and harder to use your hands. Drowsiness, disorientation, slurred speech, and unawareness of the exhaustion that you have. So that's the signs of hypothermia. So how do we prepare for hiking in the mountains or in the forest or the area where we want to go, right? So let me tell you another story. Years ago, I did a 4-day, actually it was expected to be a 5-day backpacking trip in Colorado. And I ended up hiking 4 days on the Colorado Trail. I was inexperienced, to say the least. I went alone. I carried probably 50 pounds of gear, and I'm 5'4", and at the time I probably weighed 135 pounds. And I didn't know how to use my stove, and I ended up not using a stove for 4 days. And I ate Boston baked beans, and I don't know if you're familiar with that, but basically it's an old candy where it's a little peanut with like this red sugary coating, very old school. But I ate those for 4 or 5 days because I couldn't cook my rice that I had. And again, I was very unprepared. I didn't know the first thing about what I was doing. Fortunately, I was able to get in, hike for my 4 days, get down to a town, and then get picked up by a good friend of mine, and then we went out and had burgers. But why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because we all have to be prepared. I should have gone on several day hikes and got accustomed to carrying a pack. I should have slowly progressed into the world of backpacking and hiking, but I didn't. I just went for broke and ended up, kind of having a miserable time, not eating really much of anything on my trip. But I was also unsafe. If the weather came in, I was probably at 8,000 to 10,000 feet elevation. It was October. It could have gone really badly. So what are two major things that I think that a hiker or backpacker needs to learn about? The first is knowing the code or using Hike Safe. Hike Safe is up in New Hampshire, and every year we buy a Hike Safe card, which I'll put right here or right here. And in order to help defray the costs of the rescue teams, this Hike Safe, the monies that they gain from this offset the monies for the expense of a rescue mission up in the mountains. From Hike Safe, the code is: you are responsible for yourself, so be prepared with knowledge and gear. Be prepared to leave your plan with somebody or other people who know where you're going, and do not stray from that plan. to stay together in a group. If you start with 5 people, those are the 5 people that never leave your side. They are with you, and it's best to not split the group. There are emergency situations, or there may be emergency situations where the group has to be split for a rescue, but with the advent of the Garmin InReach Mini or their Messenger, as well as other personal locator beacons, those can be called for an emergency. So we'll just move on to the next point. Be prepared to turn back. Oftentimes we get what is called summit fever, and we think, oh, here's the mountain. We're almost at the mountain, and we can basically smell it. And then the weather changes, and it gets dangerous, and it gets dangerous fairly quickly. So it's best at that point to just turn around, make a decision for safety. The next point is be prepared for emergencies. Make sure that you have all the gear that you need under the situation that you're going in to be prepared for the worst. You need to be able to carry a shelter, and I'll get to the 10 essentials for that in a moment, but you need to understand how quickly things can go badly and what to do in case of an emergency. And the final thing of the code from HikeSafe is to share it. I'm sharing it right now, and hopefully other people share this message as well. You can share the video, and hopefully people will gain from that and be safe out in the mountains. I know that there are thousands of people that come up to hike New Hampshire, and thousands of people are starting a hike. And oftentimes you hear people say things like, I'm brand new to hiking, and, should I do this or can I do this? And the answer is, yeah, of course you can. You can hike whichever mountain you'd like, but it's always best to try to help educate people and keep an eye on people. I've seen several people, leave for a trail, in the afternoon, and they're going up to over 4,000 feet, and they don't look like they're carrying much of anything, if not maybe a small bottle of water in their hand. So try to help people out, and don't be a Karen or a Dave. I'm a Dave, so don't be a Dave and, be a jerk to people, but, in their best interest and in, the hiking community's best interest is help other people out. So that leaves us with the 10 essentials of hiking, which was put out by the Appalachian Mountain Club. I'm sure that there are other clubs that have similar things that they've put together, but this is from the AMC, which is, again, up in the Northeast, and I will have a link in the description for you. But they talk about hydration, one of the essentials. Basically, you need to make sure that you are well supplied with water, or the ability to get water, whether it's through a filter or one of the dissolvable pills. You can get water from a stream. Make sure you know how to use those. I have a bee-free Catadine, and I've gone out when it was dry and I couldn't really pump water, and I was like, well, that it could have been another big deal. As you see, I'm not the expert hiker, but I am somebody that's trying to be aware of what I need to learn and grow. And because I'm going on the Appalachian Trail in a very short time, trying to learn this, as much as I can to help others and myself. The second thing is nutrition or food. Make sure you carry enough, and it's advised that you carry, if you're going on a 3 to 5 day trip, you might carry an extra day of food, and even kind of store that separate from your regular, as it is emergency food. Navigation, make sure you have some navigation, like a GPS. Sometimes you can get away with paper maps. I know the Appalachian Trail, I most likely won't be carrying a paper map, but I will have several ways to communicate if I'm lost in the mountains. Number 4, make sure you have an emergency shelter. If you're backpacking, most likely you will, but if you are just going out on day hikes or overnights, it's always good to carry something like one of those Mylar sheets as an emergency or extra clothing. But also do number 5, which is layering or a layer system, in order to be able to shed clothing or put on clothing that you need in the time of a weather change or a temperature change. Number 6, illumination. Make sure that you have some type of lamp or something that can help illuminate, the trail. A lighter, matches, anything like that might help. I don't know if anybody's ever done that before. Make sure you have batteries or extra batteries for that light, especially like a headlamp. Number 7, make sure you have a fire starter or a way to make fire other than just a butane lighter. You can find a whole list of fire starters in any Boy Scout, Boy Scout manual. And there's so many other ways to find, fire starters. Number 8, make sure you carry a first aid kit. That should be self-explanatory, but it should have stuff to protect your feet, protect yourself from wounds or abrasions, an EpiPen if you are allergic to anything, maybe even bring an EpiPen anyhow. And then also other, antibiotic or triple antibiotic like Neosporin is good as well. Number 9, a repair kit. I have a tent that may get ripped or torn, and I need to carry different items so that I can seal that up. Duct tape is often used for many quick repairs on the trail, and I will have some attached to my trekking poles. And the 10th or number 10 is sun protection. You can get hypothermia. You can also get hyperthermia, which can get from being out in the sun too long. And if you get sunburnt, you're going to actually be more heated, or you can get overheated and get heat exhaustion a little easier than if you were to apply sun protection. That's some heady stuff. It was a tough week last week in the New Hampshire White Mountains, and my condolences go out to the family of Christopher Roma, his friends, and a special thanks to all the people who, were in the rescue attempt. And if you do want to get involved or you feel like you need to help in some way, getting a hike safe card helps to defray costs for rescues. And I believe that's a good, simple first step for hikers. It's a great resource. I'll have a link in the description below. And if you want to know about the gear that I am going to take on the Appalachian Trail, it is in my most recent video on my final gear for the 2024 Appalachian Trail. So check that one out. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it to people who would benefit from learning more about being safe out in the mountains. And as always, happy hiking.